I'm going to introduce Doug with Crexendo Incorporated.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, Maj, for having me, and excited to tell you about the great growth story here with Crexendo. So we'll spend about 10 minutes on a couple of slides and then jump over to Maj for a little Q&A. So safe harbor statement that you've probably seen a lot of today. So what does Crexendo do? So we're a unified communications as a service company, basically a cloud communications company. But we're kind of unique in the fact that we do our cloud offering in two different flavors. We have a retail component and a wholesale component. And so if you look at the retail and the wholesale components, we're kind of unique in the fact that we're the only ones offering a UCaaS offering in both areas. And so we've got a lot of names up here on the slide that you probably are familiar with that if you look at it on the wholesale side, our platform currently supports about 220 licensees that subscribe to our platform. And those licensees use our platform as their own solution out there to sell their own UCaaS offerings. We're the third largest platform provider in the country behind Cisco. Cisco bought BroadSoft about 5 years ago, and Microsoft. Microsoft bought Metaswitch about 3 years ago. We are the third largest behind Cisco and Microsoft. Currently have about 4.5 million end users on our platform today. That makes us the third largest, but also the fastest growing. Frost & Sullivan just came out with a report last month that announced us as the fastest growing UCaaS platform provider in the country, outpacing Cisco and Microsoft by about a 2-to-1 pace. So really excited about that. So that's on the wholesale side of the house. On the retail side of the house, we sell direct UCaaS solutions to end user businesses, small, mid-size, and small enterprise businesses out there. And in that environment, we compete against company names that you've probably heard of, like the RingCentrals, the 8x8s, and the Vonages of the world. Very competitive environment, but we really stand out from our competition. And we stand out from our competition really because of the service and support that we give out there. So as we talk about that retail and the wholesale component, how does that break down into the company? Company last year finished with $53 million in revenue. If you look at that $53 million in revenue, about 35% of it comes from the wholesale side of the house. So that's where we sell the platform to other users and providers out there to use as their own. Again, 220 licensees that license our platform from us and use that on a continual basis. So about 35% of that $35 million comes from the wholesale side of the house. About 65% of the revenue, that $53 million, 65% of that comes from the retail side of the house. So we're going out and selling those small and mid-sized end user businesses. And so again, combined about 4.5 million end users using the Crexendo solution out there today. So how do we compete against all these big guys? A lot of names that you've heard of, a lot of companies that are a lot bigger than us. We really blow them away from a customer service and support perspective. If you look at G2.com, G2.com is kind of the technology industry standard for third-party review sites. And so we continually rank highest in the voice over IP and cloud communication providers. So as you look at how we compare against the RingCentrals and the 8x8s and the Vonages of the world, no comparison out there. And that's really when you're talking about small and mid-sized businesses, they come to expect that hand-holding, they come to expect that that customer service and support that we're able to offer them and really shine with those customers out there. So from a dollars and cents perspective, how's the company doing? So really tremendous growth within the organization. $53 million in revenue, that was up 42% year over year. So we're seeing a lot of growth there. That growth did include one small acquisition that we did. But aside from that, we still have great organic growth, about 15% combined organic growth within the organization. So $53 million total revenue at the end of last year. We talk about our backlog number a lot. That backlog number is our contracted obligations from all of our licensees and all of our direct end user customers. So currently at the end of last year, we finished with almost $64 million in backlog. That's revenue that's locked and loaded that'll be recognized over the course of the next 5 years. So if you look at the bottom part of the slide there, that expected backlog revenue recognition, we started 2024 with about almost $30 million worth of revenue already locked and loaded. That's already contractually obligated to be recognized over the course of this year. So at the end of last year, we finished at about a $58 million run rate. So if you look at that, almost half of our nut is already covered before the year even started. Strong EBITDA and adjusted EBITDA, $5.7 million in adjusted EBITDA at the end of last year, so about 11% adjusted EBITDA margins. Really strong non-GAAP income for the year, $6.7 million in non-GAAP, almost at a break-even point from a GAAP perspective. We were GAAP profitable for the last 2 quarters of last year. Really strong numbers. And we hit GAAP profitability ahead of expectations, even our own internal expectations. Beginning of April, had a market cap of about $140 million. I've sat through a couple of presentations. Everybody's saying that their stock is undervalued. We feel like we're probably, an undervalued telecom stock out there because of the way that we're working the business. Always focused on the fundamentals, always focused on clean balance sheet. Virtually today at the company, $11 million in cash on the balance sheet and virtually no debt. So how do we continue that growth? If we think about what we've got going on out there, future growth is critical for us. And so we know that we can continue that organic growth in the same respect that we've been seeing it in the last couple of years. So in the 2 divisions last year, we finished at 19% organic growth in our platform division, 9% in our direct retail division. So strong organic growth, again, combined about 15% organic growth last year. We talk about inorganic opportunities out there. We've got 220 licensees that use our platform today. That's what I call my stocked fishing pond. So from an acquisition perspective, looking at those licensees, they're already using our platform. They run their business much in the same way that we run our direct retail business. And so that's our acquisition strategy going forward, is acquiring 1 to 2 of these acquisitions each year. We did our last acquisition in November of 2022. One of our licensees out of the fishing pond, doing about $10 million in revenue, bought them for less than 1 times revenue, and have seen tremendous organic growth just out of that opportunity. That $10 million operation did about $12 million last year. So I saw about a 20% growth in that organic acquisition or inorganic acquisition. So we're seeing nice organic growth out of the acquisitions as we bring them into the organization. We talk about the growth potential in the market. In the U.S., about 60% of the businesses today are on the cloud for their communications. That means that 40% of the businesses still haven't migrated to the cloud. It's not a matter of if those businesses migrate to the cloud, it's when. And so we're in the catbird seat to be able to take advantage of that when those 40% eventually migrate over. And if you look at analysis like Gartner and Frost & Sullivan, shows that 40% will be migrating over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. So it's still a tremendous amount of opportunity. Even bigger than that is the international opportunity, because 60% of the U.S. businesses are already on the cloud. Internationally, it's a much, much lower number. So a huge opportunity there, and you're seeing that with our international growth. We had global growth of about 74% in our international markets, so seeing a lot of adoption there as well. So last 2 items here. So when we look at new logos, we brought on 21 new licensees last year. That's a tremendous amount. So we're bringing those accounts over from the likes of Cisco and Microsoft. The 2 biggest guys out there are not really taking care of their licensees. So we're seeing a lot of that transition of their licensees moving over to Crexendo. We just did an announcement about 3 weeks ago. One of Microsoft's largest reseller licensees that's leaving Microsoft, moving over to Crexendo. And they're doing that because of cost savings, feature functionality, and the hand-holding that they get from somebody like Crexendo as opposed to a Microsoft that they're just another number in the pond there. And then on the retail side of the house, we've got a lot of resellers selling our solutions out there. We added 28 new agent partners in 2023. So seeing a lot of growth there. Again, as our competition is showing weakness, we're taking advantage of that. So in summary, before we get over to Maj, just to kind of give a quick recap. So again, revenue-wise, tremendous growth there, 42% year over year at $53 million at the end of last year. Strong adjusted EBITDA. That adjusted EBITDA number was up 128% year over year. That backlog number, critical number for us. That number continues to grow. So as we sell more accounts, that number continues to grow. That 63% was up over about 47% year over year. So strong backlog growth there. Strong cash position, $10.3 million at the end of last year. Virtually no debt, less than $1 million debt on the balance sheet today. That market cap again at the beginning of April, about $140 million. But just a continued focus on execution. 21 straight quarters at the end of last year of non-GAAP profitability, 2 straight quarters of GAAP profitability. We anticipate that will continue for a long time because we're managing the business to the fundamentals. And then if you look at that organic growth, again, strong organic growth, and that's what leads us to the 4.5 million users on our platform today. So really excited to tell you a little bit more about it. So I'll move over to Maj, and we can do a little Q&A. Thanks, Maj.
Thanks for coming, man. Always a pleasure to have you here. Yeah, so before I get into some of these questions, and let's understand one more thing about your model. And I'd like to always bring this up because I think it's a competitive advantage of yours. It's the way you price your services, versus, is it, per seat or per usage, how we like to, talk about this. So maybe get into that a little bit and tell you why you think it's an advantage
Sure.
For your competitive position.
Yeah, on the platform side of the house, when we're competing against the two of the biggest companies in the world, Cisco and Microsoft, Cisco and Microsoft historically have always been a per-seat pricing model, which means that you pay per seat regardless of how you're using those seats. If you've got 20,000 seats on Cisco, you're paying 20,000 seat licenses. If you've got 20,000 users on Microsoft, you're paying 20,000 user licenses each and every month just to use their platform. When we saw that our biggest competition out there were the big guys, we had to do something pretty disruptive. So we came out with a sessions, not seats pricing model. Sessions means how many concurrent users are using the system at any given time. You can have as many seats as you want, but if you think about a phone system in an office, if I've got 25 phones in an office and I've got a conference room and a kitchen phone and a lobby phone, a lot of those phones aren't in use at any given time. So we sell a sessions, not seats model, which is a lot less expensive. So somebody moving over from Microsoft, the example I gave earlier, is going to save probably about 30 or 40% on their monthly operating expenses, moving from that seats model with Microsoft to the sessions model with Crexendo. So it's a very disruptive pricing model, very unique out there in the marketplace. Most of our competitors, even the smaller competitors, are on a per seat basis. We're really one of the few out there that just charges on a concurrent use basis.
Great. Now, if we look at we've been doing this, I think we did it last year. I don't know if we did it the year before or not.
Just last year.
Just last year. So in terms of industry, has anything changed at all between now and then that you want to talk about?
Yeah, if you look at the industry, a lot of challenges with our competitors. I talk about our clean balance sheet and our fundamentals and focus on fundamentals. A lot of our competitors are straddled with debt. So if you look at an 8x8 at a RingCentral, those guys are really challenged at the moment. So, they've had a lot of change and focus on how they're running their business. We've been pretty straight focused on what we're doing and executing well. And so when we look at the weakness of our competitors out there, Cisco and Microsoft have both really stopped development on their products and their platforms out there on the UCaaS side of the house. And so that's really allowing us to take advantage of it. So right now we're really in a strong position because our competition is either ignoring their customer base or not enhancing their platforms and their offerings out there. And that's allowing us to take a lot of initiatives from our competitors. So that's really from a competitive perspective. And then technology is continuing to change. So as we think about AI, I'm sure you're going to hear artificial intelligence in a lot of different discussions as you sit through these presentations over the next couple of days. But AI is really influencing communication solutions tremendously. And we're already selling AI. We've been selling AI solutions on our platform for the last 2 years. And so there's a lot of applications that are very affordable for the small and mid-sized business today that wouldn't have been available years ago and would have been too expensive. It would have been something that only Fortune 1000 type companies could afford, and now we're making it available to small and mid-sized businesses.
Okay, now, I guess pushback you would probably get from investors, and even when I first talked to you, is how you really any different. You've kind of explained some of it, but there's a lot of these companies out there, like you said here, right? Are you winning when people compete in this business? Are they winning on service? Or are they winning on pricing, or are they winning on, what the product can do? I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah, it's a combination. I wouldn't go as far as saying that our solution is a commodity, but communications are a basic necessity for every business. Every business out there has a phone system, and most of them can benefit from our services. So when we go out there and we compete through our agents and our licensees. And so our agents and our licensees typically have relationships out there, so they're selling that customer service and support first and foremost. When you put a phone system in, if your phone system doesn't work and people can't get in touch with you, you're out of business basically. And so that customer service and support is first and foremost. Pricing is secondary. Everybody's looking at how they can manage their business more effectively. So our solutions tend to save them money on even their older legacy equipment. So when we go into a business and they've got a 10-year-old Avaya system and I can save them 20% on a monthly basis and give them better technology, it's an easy win for us.
Okay. Now, in terms of the acquisition front, so it was Allegiant? Allegiant, right? Were they they were part of your fishing pond, I guess?
They were, yes.
Right? And now, were they a reseller or were they also an integrator also? I mean, can you talk about the difference between what that really means, and
Sure.
Are you looking for both?
Yeah, great question. So when we look at that fishing pond of licensees, we've got 220 plus licensees out there using our platform today. Some of those licensees are just pure UCaaS offerings. Others have additional services that they offer on top of that. So they may have development services. They may be building their own software solutions out there, putting integrations into applications like AI, et cetera. Allegiant was an acquisition that we did, one of our licensees in Kansas City. We did it at the end of November of 2022. And so that was a great acquisition for us, already using our platform, but they also had a managed services component of their business. So not only were they going out there and selling the UCaaS offering, but they were also selling IT and data support. So their average size customer on the Crexendo retail side of the house, our average size customer, is about $350 a month on a monthly recurring basis. Allegiant was almost 4 times that because they sold not only UCaaS solutions, but managed services and IT support as well. So their average customer was about $1,200 a month. So when we look at that component, we've now started cross-utilizing a lot of the managed services offerings and network servicing offerings that they had at Allegiant. We put that into our retail offering as well.
Great. Now, part of you had a CEO transition. You had Jeff Korn come on, and I guess part of that, I don't know if I want to call it transformation or maybe minor restructuring, was really focused on the bottom line. And I think since then you put together some nice quarters of profitability. So maybe, and I can see you guys have discussed, but maybe, I don't know if you gave a number at all, or maybe how much you could maybe save from some of the things you were doing. I think right. You sold a building, right? Raised some cash there. But a lot of that was going to have to do with migrating some of your legacy customers, to your new offering.
Right.
Because you have the same offering doing the same. You have 2 platforms doing the same thing, basically.
Right.
What inning are you in that? And can you start getting more specific on, have we already started seeing that benefit at the bottom line, or is the best yet to come from that kind of integration?
Yeah. So as Maj said, about a year ago in March of last year, we had a transition at our CEO level. So Steve Mihaylo was our former CEO. I've been working with Steve for 35 years now at our previous company that he grew to about a $500 million company before selling in 2008. And then here at Crexendo, Steve turned 81 and decided to retire. And he's still on our board of directors and has been a great mentor for me and for the organization. Jeff Korn was our chief legal officer and moved into the CEO role. And so Jeff and I have been working together for over 14 years now at Crexendo, building the company. So really, really good core group of executive management that's been working tightly together for the last 14 years. Jeff's role when he came in was to really focus on the fundamentals, cut out excessive costs, and really get us to GAAP profitability. And as I said earlier, we hit GAAP profitability 2 quarters prior to our internal expectations. As Maj just mentioned, though, when we talk about our platform today, we do have a legacy platform that a lot of our retail customers are on, and so we've been migrating those customers over to our newest platform over the course of the last year and a half. We're about 80% done with that migration. We'll be complete with that migration before the end of this year. And when we finish that migration, we'll sunset our legacy system. And when we sunset our legacy system, we'll see about $1 million worth of cost pickup that we'll see because we don't have to have the extra support, the extra data centers, the extra hardware maintenance and support on that extra platform. So when we look at where we've seen tremendous cost savings over the last year and a half, we've got additional cost savings coming up within the next 6 to 9 months as we sunset our old legacy system.
And I think also what you guys did temporarily, at least, was maybe cut back on some of your marketing and sales services. And I think you've already said that you're ramping that up again.
We have. So if we look at reinvesting back into the organization, it's all about generating excitement about our company and our platform and our offering out there. So really ramping back up the marketing executives, going out and selling our solutions with our agents and our partners. So we're seeing a tremendous pickup there. Sales are off the charts. We just finished up April, just yesterday, and had a record bookings month for April. So bookings turn into future revenue. So extremely excited about the momentum we continue to see out there.
Well, you had two at least let me see here, at least two events or maybe that I want to talk about recently. One of them was had to do with the telecloud partnership and POTS lines. I guess there was that plain old telephone systems, I guess we call that. So maybe you could talk about what's going on there with POTS lines and what you're doing kind of to address changes that have been going on there from the FCC's mandating.
Right. Sure. When you think about telecom, we've got about 240 integrators out there that develop solutions and products and offerings that overlay onto our platform. TelCloud is one of those offerings. So TelCloud, as Maj is related to, is a POTS replacement company. POTS stands for plain old telephone service. So there's still a lot of copper lines out there. So if you think about certain lines out there, they weren't able to be put onto the cloud over the course of the last few years because of limitations. So you had elevator lines, you had fax lines, you had burglar lines, you had fire alarm lines. Those lines typically haven't been able to convert over to the cloud. But all of the existing legacy dial tone providers out there are doing away with all their copper services out there. So they basically mandated that, hey, within the next 3 years, all copper lines are going to cease to exist, basically. So you're even seeing in California companies like AT&T charging $500 for a line that used to cost $30 just to get people to get off these old copper lines. So the TelCloud partnership is one of our integrators that has a POTS replacement solution that allows the burglar lines and the fire alarm lines and the elevator lines to work on the cloud. And so we're seeing significant pickup from that. Other integrators are coming out with applications around AI. And so we've got probably a dozen developers out there developing AI solutions for our platform today to make customers more efficient, more effective using AI-type technologies into the communication solution.
Great. Yeah, and that's like this is basically it has to happen, right? Because the FCC is saying these POTS lines have to be replaced. If you look at all the lines out there, what kind of timeline you think this will occur, or how many years?
Yeah, all the POTS lines replacement really has to happen over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, because all of these carriers, AT&T and Verizon and the local bell companies, they're all sunsetting all of the copper line support. So over the next 2 or 3 years, that'll transition and basically those lines will go away. So these companies have to do something. And so a lot of them may already have a cloud solution, but now we can get that extra, push because we're getting those extra lines that haven't been on the cloud moved over to the cloud. So, it's not going to be a tremendous material revenue stream for us, but it's a very significant revenue stream for us because it pushes customers over to the UCaaS solution where maybe they've been reluctant to move to the cloud because of some of these lingering lines that they had to keep. Now they don't have to keep them, and now there's a way for them to easily migrate them over to the cloud.
And how significant of a player is TelCloud in the industry?
TelCloud is one of the larger players in the industry, but there's some other large ones as well. But TelCloud is the partner that we've associated with because they're key for us, and they're also one of our licensees that have developed it specifically for our platform. But there are some other players. Ooma has got their AirDial product. Granite Communications has got their own POTS replacement out there. But we're probably unique in the fact that we've got developers developing it for our platform that allows it to integrate tightly with our solutions.
Okay. Now, another thing I think when Jeff came in too, you put maybe some of the acquisition talk a little on hold short term. I think now you're talking about ramping that up again. And maybe talk about, is there a particular area you really want to focus on if you want to make an acquisition, and how do you finance it? Your Legion finance was pretty good. It wasn't dilutive.
Yep.
Maybe explain how you finance that, and will you keep doing it
Yeah, absolutely. So with 220 licensees out there, as I said, that's my stock fishing pond. So I don't have to go out and look for opportunities for acquisitions at any given time. I've got discussions going on with half a dozen of my licensees on what their exit strategy looks like. Allegiant was a good example. It was a lifestyle business, family owned. The gentleman that sold the business was in his mid-60s, looking for an exit strategy, stayed on with us, still with us. And so that was a great acquisition for us. We did that with a combination of cash and stock and seller finance. So about 20% cash, 70% stock, and 10% seller finance. And so we did that acquisition, again, $10 million in revenue for less than 1 times revenue. And that's the ideal solution for future acquisitions. If I can structure it the same way, it's not dilutive. And if we look at the opportunities out there, tremendous opportunities. And we're talking to quite a few of them right now that are in that $5 to $15 million range. So again, if we do 1 or 2 of these a year for the next year and a half, we're easily at, with organic growth and inorganic acquisitions, we're at $100 million in 2 years.
And that was one thing, too, really, it's important to point out. If you have any questions, you can also raise your hand here, too, is that one of the things the investors were worried about for a couple of years there was, or the organic growth you weren't getting after you made the Net Sapiens acquisition. But I think now the last 3-4 quarters, you've had organic growth.
Yeah, really strong organic growth, and we're continuing to see that organic growth. So organic growth is critical for us, and so that combined with acquisitions gets us to that $100 million mark.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I think we're good.
Good.
Thanks. And I do own stock in Crexendo. I'm disclosing that now. So
good. Great. Thanks, everybody. Greatly appreciate it.